There's something profound happening in the energetic field between you and this person right now. Something that transcends the physical realm and speaks to the deepest chambers of the soul. Your person has begun to feel the tremors of transformation rippling through their consciousness, and what they're experiencing is nothing short of a spiritual awakening to the magnitude of what they've lost. The shift in your energy hasn't gone unnoticed. In fact, it's creating waves that reach them no matter how far apart you may seem on the surface. They're sensing your evolution, your growth, your journey toward a more empowered version of yourself, and this awareness is stirring something primal within them. It's as though every step you take in reclaiming your power, every breath you draw as your authentic self, sends ripples through the invisible threads that still connect your souls. This growing awareness is becoming a constant presence in their mind, a whisper that grows louder with each passing day. They can feel you moving forward, blooming, expanding into the magnificent being you were always meant to be. And while part of them celebrates your growth from afar, another part feels the earth shifting beneath their feet. The comfortable distance they thought they had created is revealing itself to be an illusion, because energetically, spiritually, you have never been closer to their thoughts. The anxiety they're experiencing isn't just worry, it's the deep, cellular recognition that something irreplaceable is slipping through their fingers like sand. They're beginning to understand that what they had with you wasn't ordinary. It wasn't just another connection, another relationship, another chapter in their romantic history. It was the kind of soul recognition that happens perhaps once in a lifetime, if we're fortunate enough to receive such a gift from the universe. The space that has formed between you has become a living thing, breathing with its own rhythm, pulsing with its own energy. They can no longer pretend it doesn't exist, can no longer convince themselves that this distance is natural or healthy or what they truly wanted. Instead, this space has become a magnifying glass through which they see the true value of what once was, what could still be, what their soul is crying out to reclaim. Their mind has become a sacred temple dedicated to you, where every thought is a prayer, every memory is an offering, every moment of longing is worship at the altar of what you shared. They find themselves obsessing not out of possession, but out of recognition, the kind of recognition that comes when someone realizes they may have walked away from their destiny. The thought of another person stepping into the space they once occupied, sharing in the magic they once knew, receiving the love they once treasured, is more than unbearable, it's a form of spiritual torture. This isn't merely curiosity about your life or casual wondering about your well-being. This is a burning, consuming need to know that feels essential to their very survival. They need to know you're okay, yes, but more than that, they need to know there's still space for them in the sacred landscape of your heart. They need to know that the door hasn't been permanently sealed, that the bridge between your souls hasn't been completely burned, that somewhere in the depths of your being, a small flame still flickers with their name upon it. The longing they're experiencing has roots that run deeper than the ocean floor. It's not the surface level missing that comes and goes with the changing seasons of life. This is the kind of longing that poets write about, that mystics understand, that ancient souls recognize as the call of one half of a divine whole searching for its completion. This longing has become their compass, pointing always toward you, no matter which direction life tries to pull them. With each sunrise, their willingness to bridge the gap between you grows stronger. They're no longer the person who could walk away with casual indifference. They're no longer able to pretend that what you shared was replaceable or that they can find the same depth of connection elsewhere. The person they're becoming through this process of separation is someone who understands that true love, real soul connection, the kind of magic you shared together, is worth fighting for with everything they have. Every attempt they make to focus their attention elsewhere feels hollow, feels forced, feels like they're betraying the deepest truth of their heart. Other people, other activities, other pursuits that once brought joy or distraction now feel like poor substitutes for the real nourishment their soul craves, connection with you. It's as though they're trying to fill an ocean-sized void with droplets of water, wondering why they remain perpetually thirsty. The universe, it seems, has become your co-conspirator in keeping you alive in their consciousness. Everywhere they turn, there you are in spirit if not in form. The songs that play on random radio stations carry lyrics that could have been written about your connection. Numbers that hold significance in your shared history appear on clocks, receipts, license plates, and phone numbers with frequency that defies explanation. Their dreams have become meeting places where your souls convene, where conversations happen that feel more real than their waking interactions with others. Even their unconscious mind has joined this cosmic conspiracy, sending them symbols and synchronicities that would be easy to dismiss if they happened once or twice, but impossible to ignore given their persistent, almost aggressive frequency. Street names that echo your name, unexpected encounters with mutual friends, finding objects that remind them of shared memories, hearing your favorite phrases in conversations with strangers. It's as though reality itself is refusing to let them forget the profound connection that once defined their understanding of what love could be. These signs have taken on an almost supernatural quality in their experience, arriving with such perfect timing and such obvious meaning that they've begun to wonder if what exists between you transcends the ordinary rules of human connection. Perhaps what they're experiencing isn't just nostalgia or regret, but recognition of something that was written in the stars long before either of you took your first breath in this lifetime. While they're spiraling deeper into this recognition of what they've lost, you continue to rise like the sun after a long, dark night. They can sense your energy from wherever they are, lighter, freer, more radiant, more aligned with your highest self than you've ever been. There's a luminosity about you now that wasn't there before, a confidence that comes from walking through the fire of heartbreak and emerging not as a victim, but as a warrior of love. They're genuinely proud of your transformation, proud of the way you've handled the difficulties, proud of the strength you've shown in creating space for your own growth and healing. But wrapped within that pride is a bitter sweetness that tastes like medicine, healing and painful all at once. Because your growth, while beautiful to witness, also carries the implied message that you're becoming complete without them, that you're discovering you don't need them to be whole, that you're thriving in ways that suggest their presence in your life may no longer be necessary. This possibility terrifies them more than they have words to express. The fear that you might outgrow what you once shared, that you might look back on your time together as simply a stepping stone to something better, that you might close the chapter on them permanently. These fears have become the monsters that visit them in the quiet hours when the rest of the world is sleeping and there are no distractions to keep their deepest anxieties at bay. Behind closed doors, in the sacred privacy of their own space, they're practicing conversations with you that may never happen. They're rehearsing words they may never have the courage to speak, crafting apologies they may never have the opportunity to offer, planning gestures of love they may never have the chance to make. The idea of a new beginning with you has moved beyond wishful thinking into the realm of active planning, detailed visualization, desperate hoping. They envision what it might look like to start fresh, to rebuild not just the relationship but the trust, to heal not just the surface wounds but the deep soul injuries that occurred during your time apart. They imagine what it would feel like to rediscover each other with the wisdom that comes from loss, the appreciation that comes from absence, the gratitude that comes from almost losing something precious forever. But alongside these beautiful visions lives a fear that grows stronger each day, the fear that they may be too late, that the door to your heart may have already closed, that the window of opportunity for redemption may have already passed them by. What if you've truly moved on? What if the space they once occupied in your life has been filled by someone who appreciates what they failed to cherish? What if their dreams of reconciliation are nothing more than fantasy, and the reality is that you're perfectly happy without them? The longing they carry for you has evolved beyond emotional into something physical, cellular, bone deep. Missing you has become a condition of their existence, as constant as their heartbeat, as essential as their breathing. There's an actual ache in their chest when they think about your smile, your laugh, the way your energy used to fill a room and make everything feel brighter, warmer, more alive. This pain has become their most faithful companion, the one thing they can count on to be present when everything else feels uncertain. The emptiness left by your absence has carved out a space inside them that echoes with memories, that reverberates with might-have-beens, that pulses with the rhythm of hope and despair taking turns leading the dance of their emotions. This isn't the clean, simple sadness that comes and goes with time. This is the complex, layered grief that comes from knowing you've lost not just a person, but a possibility, not just a relationship, but a glimpse of what love could be when it's real and deep and transformative. And perhaps you're feeling echoes of this connection too. Those waves of unexplained sadness that wash over you seemingly without warning, those moments when you find yourself missing something you can't quite name, those dreams that feel more like memories and leave you wondering why they felt so vivid, so real, so important. The invisible cord that connects your souls doesn't recognize the physical distance between you. It continues to transmit the frequencies of love, longing, and soul recognition regardless of whether you're in the same room or on opposite sides of the world. They've become more observant than they've ever been in their entire life, paying attention to details they used to ignore, watching for signs they used to dismiss, hoping for connections they used to take for granted. Through social media, through mutual friends, through the digital breadcrumbs you leave in your wake, they piece together a picture of your current life like an archaeologist carefully reconstructing an ancient artifact. This isn't stalking or invasion of privacy, it's the desperate behavior of someone trying to maintain some semblance of connection to the person who redefined their understanding of what it means to love and be loved. They're not trying to control or manipulate or interfere with your life. They're simply trying to feel close to you in the only ways that feel available to them, trying to bridge the distance that grows more painful with each passing day. The peaceful break they imagined this separation would provide has revealed itself to be anything but peaceful. Instead of the calm clarity they expected, they found a constant reminder of everything that's missing from their life, everything that felt complete when you were part of their daily existence, everything that made sense when viewed through the lens of partnership with you. Their current reality has begun to feel like they're living someone else's life, going through motions that belong to a person they used to be but can no longer recognize. The routines that once provided structure and comfort now feel hollow. The people who once brought joy and companionship now feel like shadows compared to the substance of connection they knew with you. Even the activities and pursuits that once brought satisfaction now feel like poor substitutes for the real fulfillment they experienced when sharing their world with you. Nothing truly satisfies anymore because the person they genuinely want to share every experience with, every triumph, every ordinary Tuesday afternoon, every extraordinary moment of beauty, that person is no longer within reach. They're going through the motions of living, but their heart remains elsewhere, remains with you, remains suspended in the space between what was and what could still be if the universe would grant them the grace of a second chance. This growing dissatisfaction with a life that doesn't include you is pushing them toward a crossroads where pretending becomes impossible and truth becomes unavoidable. They're beginning to understand that they can't keep living in this liminal space, can't keep telling themselves they're fine while their soul is crying out for reconnection. They're realizing that something fundamental must change, and that change begins with the courage to face the truth of how deeply, completely, irreversibly they love you. Despite all the pain, despite all the confusion, despite all the fear and uncertainty and unanswered questions, they haven't released their grip on hope. If anything, their desire to reconnect with you has intensified through this process of separation, has been refined by distance, has been purified by the fire of almost loss into something that feels essential to their continued existence. They're being moved by forces beyond their conscious control, memories that arrive uninvited but welcome, signs from the universe that feel like divine intervention, the magnetic pull of your shared energy that refuses to be diminished by physical distance or time or any of the superficial barriers that seem to separate you. These forces are gathering momentum, building toward what feels like an inevitable moment of choice, a crossroads where silence becomes impossible and truth demands to be spoken. Whether they'll find the courage to break the silence that has stretched between you like a bridge waiting to be crossed remains to be seen. But one thing has become crystal clear through this journey of separation and longing: you haven't left their heart. Not even close. In fact, you've taken up permanent residence there, occupying not just a room but the entire sacred space where love lives and breathes and dreams of reunion. And no matter how far apart you may seem to the casual observer, no matter how complete and independent your lives may appear from the outside, in the realm of the soul where truth lives unadorned by pretense or protection, you are still right there. Right there in the center of their deepest hopes, their most fervent prayers, their most cherished dreams of what love can be when it's allowed to flourish without fear. The question that echoes through their days and haunts their nights with increasing urgency is simple in its wording but complex in its implications: can we give it another try? This question has become a mantra, a prayer, a plea to whatever forces govern matters of the heart. They find themselves asking this question of the universe, of their own reflection, of the dreams where you still appear as vivid and real as when you shared the same physical space. I keep asking myself this question over and over again, they think, hoping that somehow the answer might change, that somehow you might still feel the same way I do. The hope embedded in this repetition speaks to the depth of their faith that what you shared was too real, too profound, too spiritually significant to be relegated to the past tense permanently. They wonder constantly if you still think about them the way they find themselves thinking about you at all hours of the day and night. Your name has become a word that their mind speaks without permission, a syllable that appears in their thoughts like a signature at the bottom of every mental page they write. It's not something they can control or schedule or manage, it simply happens, as natural and involuntary as breathing, as constant and essential as their heartbeat. There are moments when they catch themselves smiling at a memory, lost in the recollection of a conversation that made them laugh, a glance you shared that said everything without words, a moment of connection that felt like the universe aligning in their favor. But these moments of joy are always followed by the heavy reminder of your absence, the weight of current reality crashing down like waves against the shore of their hope. They can't help but wonder if they ever cross your mind the same way you've taken up permanent residence in theirs. Do you still feel that lingering pull in your heart when something reminds you of the time you spent together? Do you find yourself wondering what they're doing, how they're feeling, whether they think of you with the same frequency and intensity that you occupy their thoughts? Looking back with the clarity that only distance and time can provide, they're overwhelmed with regret, not just for the relationship ending, but for not being fully honest about the depth of their feelings while they had the chance. They regret the lies they told, not out of malice or manipulation, but out of the kind of fear that makes people smaller than they're meant to be. Fear of being too vulnerable, too open, too honest about the transformative power of what they felt for you. They were terrified of scaring you away with the intensity of their love, afraid that maybe they wanted more than you were ready to give, concerned that the depth of their feelings might overwhelm you or create pressure that would push you toward the exit rather than deeper into connection. But now they understand that their self-protection became a form of self-sabotage, that their attempts to play it safe actually endangered the very thing they were trying to preserve. The truth they weren't brave enough to speak then feels urgent now. They were drawn to you from the very beginning with a force that defied logic and transcended ordinary attraction. From the first moment your paths crossed, something within them shifted permanently. It was as though a part of their soul that had been dormant suddenly awakened, as though a frequency they'd never been able to tune into suddenly came through crystal clear. Even in those early days, before they fully understood what was happening, they could feel it, this strange, undeniable pull that whispered in a voice older than time itself, "This is the person who could change everything." This was the recognition that mystics write about, that ancient texts describe, that most people spend entire lifetimes searching for without ever finding.